Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah Yomi continues in chapter 2 of Makkot, Mishnayot Vav Zayin 6, 7. Today, on the topic of someone killing by accident, going to seek refuge in the Ir Miklat to protect him from the Goel Hadam. And of course, on the way to the Ir Miklat, as we learned, they would tell the Goel Hadam, if he meets this person who wants to take revenge, they'd try to talk him out of it. Now, this Mishnah gives us a detail of when that might be happening. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda Omer Batchila, he says, originally, Echad Shogig Ve'echad Mezid, whether the killing was accidental or even on purpose, Makdimin the Arei Miklat, they would go immediately to the city of refuge, even before the trial. And this might be at the point, if they meet the Goel Hadam, meet a family member, they said, hey, wait until the trial, this person might be innocent. Ubeitin sholchin mevinoto misham, and the court where the crime took place would send messengers to escort the killer to stand trial. Mishinit chayev mita bebeitin haraguhu, someone who is found to actually be a murderer, he actually did it on purpose, he would be executed by that court. Shalonit chayev mita patru, someone who is not liable to death. Something was onus, it was unavoidable. The other guy stood up and stuck his head out after he threw the rock. Something unavoidable. He would be pater, he would be let go. Mishinit chayev galut, and somebody who is liable to be punished through exile, meaning it's an accidental crime, as we've explained in this chapter. Machzirno tulim komo, they return him to his place, meaning that city of refuge he ran to first. Shnemar, as the pasuk says, "V'heishivo oto ha'eda el ir miklato." The court will return him to his city of refuge, meaning someone killed, they went to a city of refuge right away, and then there was a trial, and if he's supposed to go into exile as punishment, they'll return him to that same city. And in any event, the court needs witnesses to establish the verdict. The Gemara in Makkot 10b actually asks, what if there's no witnesses? What if there's a murderer and there were no witnesses, he's getting away with it, and another guy who killed by accident without witnesses, so he's getting away with it without going to Golut? So it says Hashem has many ways to fix the problem. For example, Hashem might have them both in the same inn, and the person who killed by accident without witnesses, he's going down the ladder and slips and lands on the person who murdered without witnesses, killing the murderer, and now the person going down the ladder, who originally should have gone into exile, he will be sentenced to go into exile. So Hashem will fix a lot of problems when the human courts are technically unable to do so. So back in the Mishnah, how long is the killer in exile? Well, we know it's until the Cohen Gadol passes away, but the Mishnah explains now, Echad Meshuach B'Shem and Mishcha, whether it's a Cohen Gadol who was anointed with the oil, as they had in the first temple time, Echad Meribid Begodim, or they put on the additional clothing. Remember, the Cohen Gadol, back in Yoma we learned, has 8 articles of clothing, where the regular Cohen has 4, so putting on the additional clothing would invest him as Cohen Gadol. Echad Sha'avra Meshikuto, or someone who stepped down from being anointed, so he's a Cohen Gadol emeritus, or he was a Cohen Gadol who became impure on Yom Kippur, so they had to use the backup Cohen Gadol to serve. So if any of these Cohen Gadols would pass away, Machzirin et Rotzeach, the killer is allowed to go back home. Rabbi Yehuda Omer af Meshuch Milchama. He says even the Cohen, who's not the Cohen Gadol, but he's the Cohen who's been anointed to lead the nation in war. He's the head chaplain of the IDF, of the military, and we learned at the end of Sota, he gives a rousing pep talk to the soldiers, tells those who are excluded, don't have to be in the war, they get to go home, and encourages those who should be in the war to fight bravely. Lefichach, the Mishnah says, therefore, imotehen shel Kohanim, the mothers of the Kohanim, of the priests, misapkot lehen michya chzut, they would send gifts to people who had killed by accident. Kadeshali palalu al b'neihem sheyamutu, so they wouldn't daven that the Kohanim would pass away and allow the killers to return from exile. And part of this concept is that the Kohanim, and especially the Cohen Gadol, should be praying over the entire nation that deaths and murders and even accidents do not occur. So if something happened by accident, of course, it's an accident, but the Cohen Gadol bears some spiritual responsibility for not praying fervently over the nation to prevent accidents. Back in the Mishnah, Misha Nigmar Dino, met Cohen Gadol. If after the verdict that this person is chayav galut, must go in exile, then the Cohen Gadol passes away before he gets to the Ir Miklat, hareze eno gole. He doesn't have to go. He can go home right away. Im ad shelo nigmar dino met Cohen Gadol. If it was before the verdict was reached that the Cohen Gadol passed, uminu acher tachtav, then they appointed another Cohen Gadol, ul acher miken nigmar dino, and then the verdict was reached. Chozer ben patato shel sheni. He is not released until the new Cohen Gadol passes away. Nigmar dina below Cohen Gadol, if there was no high priest appointed at the time of the verdict, the horeg Cohen Gadol, or somebody who murdered the Cohen Gadol shaharag, or the high priest himself killed someone, eino yotze misham le'olam. This creates a situation of permanent exile for the killer. Ve'eno yotze, and the killer cannot leave the Ir Miklat, the refuge, lo le'edut mitzvah, not to testify about a mitzvah, for example, the new moon, lo le'edut mamon, not to testify that someone owes money, lo le'edut nefashot, not even to testify about a murder, though technically the court might be able to come to the witness to get the testimony. Filo Yisrael tzrichim lo, even if Am Yisrael needs this person, Filo Tsar Tzava Yisrael ki Yoav ben Tzuriya, even if he's a great general, a military leader like Yoav, the son of Tzuriya, who was the best in his day, Eino Yotzim Sham Lolam, he's not allowed to leave the city. Shnemar Asher Nos Shama, that he fled to that city. Sham Tehei Dirato, that must be his dira, his residence. Sham Tehei Mitato, there he has to pass away. Sham Tehei Kivrado, there he must be buried. Not even to be buried can the killer leave the city. Now, what about the city? Just like the city itself is kolet, provides miklat, protection, kach techuma kolet, so to the techum Shabbos. This goes back to about 2 years ago when we were learning in Erevin. There's a techum of 2,000 amot around each city where people are allowed to go on Shabbos. So that too is considered part of the city to protect. But what if he does leave? Rotzeach sheyatza chutz l'tchum, if he goes outside the Tchum Shabbos, and Matzal go ladam, and the redeemer of blood, the relative of the slain person, finds him. Rabbi Yossi Galili Omer mitzvah biad goel hadam. It's a mitzvah for him to kill the killer who left his refuge. A reshut biad kol adam, where it's permissible but not encouraged for anyone else to do so. Rabbi Akiva Omer disagrees, says reshut biad kol adam. He says the redeemer, the family member, he would have permission, but he's not required. The kol adam chayvin olav, and other people who would kill this guy who's escaping the city of refuge, they would actually be liable for killing him. They have no permission at all to even start up with him. Now the Mishnah explains what's included in the Techum Ilan. What if there's a tree? She'omed betoch hatchum. It's standing inside the Techum of the Ir Miklat. V'nofo note chutz l'tchum. But the branches are extending over and outside of the Techum. O omed chutz l'tchum. Or the trunk of the tree is outside. V'nofo note betoch hatum. But the branches are coming inside. Hakol cholech achar hanof. It depends on the branches. If the branches are in the tchum, then even if he's touching the trunk of the tree, he's considered inside the tchum of the city enough to be protected. Now the Mishnah adds, Harug ba'ota ha'ir. There was a killer who went to exile in a certain city in Ir Miklat, and another accident happened over there in the Ir Miklat. Golim mishchuna l'shchuna. We'll exile him from one neighborhood to another one. We don't say just he's already in Ir Miklat, he doesn't have to move. No, he still has to move within the same city. Ben Levi, someone who's from the Shevet of Levi, who's living in one of the 42 cities of the Leviim, Gole Me'ir L'ir. He must leave his hometown and travel to a different city of Leviim, or one of the 6 official named Arei Miklat. Yashar Kochachem Tizkulu Mitzvot.